I know it's July, almost August, but I want to finish out the states and their LGBTQIA plus laws. So we've discussed a few states and their history and laws. Let's take a look at the United States in its entirety, its history, and its laws. From what I've researched, even though transgender rights have faced erosion since the election of Donald Trump, the first time he was elected, LGBTQIA plus rights in the United States are among the most advanced in the world. But we've come a mighty long way and also regressed a mighty long way. Let's take it section by section, starting with same-sex relationships. The early United States inherited sodomy laws, which constitutionally outlawed a variety of sexual acts deemed illegal, illicit, unlawful, unnatural, or immoral from the colonial era-based laws in the 17th century. Various European nations which established colonies in the Americas brought their pre-existing sodomy laws, which included capital punishment, with them. The Puritan colonies, severe in their regulation of moral behavior, derived their laws from the Old Testament rather than English statutes. While these laws often targeted sexual acts between persons of the same sex, many sodomy-related statutes employed definitions broad enough to outlaw certain sexual acts between persons of different sexes, in some cases even including acts between married persons. In 1779, Thomas Jefferson tried to reduce Virginia's maximum punishment for sodomy to castration, but it was rejected by the Virginia legislature. Beginning in the 19th century, the various state legislatures passed legislation which ended the status of capital punishment being used for those who were convicted under sodomy laws. South Carolina was the last state in 1873 to repeal the death penalty for sodomy law violations. Through the mid to late 20th century, the gradual decriminalization of consensual sexual acts led to the elimination of anti-sodomy laws in most United States. On June 4th, 1920, Congress modified Article 93 of the Articles of War of 1916. It was changed to make the act of sodomy itself a crime. On May 5th, 1950, the Uniform Code of Military Justice was passed by Congress and was signed into law by President Harry S. Truman and became effective May 31st, 1951. Article 125 forbids sodomy among all military personnel, defining it as any person subject to this chapter who engages in unnatural carnal copulation with another person of the same or opposite sex or with an animal is guilty of sodomy. See how they included animal? Like, was that necessary? But I digress. Prior to 1962, sodomy was a felony in every state, punished by a lengthy term of imprisonment or hard labor. In that year, the Model Penal Code, MPC, developed by the American Law Institute to promote uniformity among the states as they modernized their statutes, struck a compromise that removed consensual sodomy from its criminal code, while making it a crime to solicit for sodomy. In 1962, Illinois adopted the recommendations of the Model Penal Code and thus became the first state to remove criminal penalties for consensual sodomy from its criminal code, almost a decade before any other state. The penalty for violating an sodomy law varied widely from jurisdiction to jurisdiction among those states retaining their laws. The harshest penalties were in Idaho, where a person convicted of sodomy could earn a life sentence. Michigan followed with a maximum penalty of 15 years imprisonment, while repeat offenders got life. In 1986, the Supreme Court decided in Bowers v. Hardwick that laws criminalizing oral and anal sex in private between consenting adults was constitutional. This was in respect to sodomy. By 2002, 36 states had repealed their sodomy laws or their courts had overturned them. By 2003, most states no longer enforced sodomy laws, unless you lived in Texas. The continued existence of these rarely enforced laws on the statute books were often cited as justification for discrimination against gay men, lesbians, and bisexuals. The Supreme Court decision in 2003's Lawrence v. Texas overturned 1986's Bowers v. Hardwick. The decision invalidated any state sodomy laws, some of which were still law, in the following 14 states. Can you guess what region these states were in? Alabama, Florida, Idaho, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. Several states had repealed their sodomy laws prior to Lawrence versus Texas. Illinois in 1961, Connecticut in 1971, Colorado in 1972, California in 1975, Delaware in the 1970s, Hawaii, Indiana, Iowa, Maine, Nebraska, New Jersey, all in the 1970s. Idaho also in 1971, although it was later reinstated. The Court of Appeals for the Armed Forces has ruled that the Lawrence versus Texas decision applies to Article 125. On December 26, 2013, President Barack Obama signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2014, which repealed the Article 125 ban on consensual sodomy.